What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be shooting on the Cinestill 800T. I know it's a tungsten balanced film, but I thought I'd just give it a go shooting during the day. We've got João here from KULT Models, and yeah, we're just going to be walking around and basically just finding good spots, finding clean walls, and just see what we get. So yeah, hope you enjoy, and welcome to another behind the scenes.
Alright, so as mentioned at the start of this video, this is my first time using the Cinestill 800T stock. I have used a Cinestill 50D before in a 35mm format, but none in the 120 format. So this is my first time using a Cinestill film stock in the 120 format. Basically, I didn't give myself too much time to prepare because I didn't want to overthink this. But one thing I did want to make sure was how I was going to be able to avoid halation in this film stock, because that's what it's known for. That's kind of its unique quality. So to avoid that, I stuck to places where there wasn't going to be too much sort of bright lights that was going to, make me overexpose or like make halations come through to, my final result. So I stuck with places where they were just relatively shaded, clean amount of indirect light coming through, but shaded, just to make sure that I wasn't overexposing and making any halations visible. So we only just shot a few photos here before kind of making our way to a different location. So as we were walking to this different location and I was just sort of sussing out the general area, we walked past a car garage where they were kind of fixing up a lot of cool vintage cars, and we saw this Land Rover just parked out the front, and it was a sick color, it was a vibe. So we thought, hey, maybe we'll try and take some photos in front of it. João was very bold in that he didn't have any problem kind of leaning on it and sitting on it, as you'll see. I definitely wanted to make sure that the people who owned the garage weren't going to be too suspicious. They did kind of look at us when we were loitering around the car, but they sort of just saw that we were just taking photos in front of it and left us alone. But I just didn't want to push our luck and sort of, overstep our boundaries by sitting on it, which João just had no problem doing, which is fine because it was a fun picture and I loved his sort of adventurous energy, and that's just what kind of keeps a photo shoot pretty fun and high energy anyway. But the car was perfect, it was a sick color, and he just complemented the outfit so well. So yeah, definitely happy that we stopped by and took some photos here. Alright, so further down from the car, this was kind of the context that I had in mind before starting this shoot of where I generally wanted to stay, because there was golden light coming through that was hopefully going to help me not make these kind of scans turn out too blue or too cool. It was going to help me with the skin tones, and yeah, I basically just sort of picked and chose a spot and just worked around it. This is probably my favorite photo from the whole shoot, only because it just is balanced. There is coolness to it, but the light that's hitting him just behind him and the side of his face is warm, so his skin tones turned out okay. Now you can see the halation has kicked in this image though. If you look at his right arm and his shoulder, that's what I wanted to avoid as much as possible, and it's not too prominent here, which is great. But because I was backlighting this and I had to expose for him in the shade, the halation has started to kick in from overexposing the highlights. But yeah, this was generally my goal, to avoid this as much as possible the entire shoot.
All right, 3, 2, 1, nice. 3, 2, 1, and then I'm gonna get closer. Can you move your hands around so I can see your ring at least? Yeah, good one. So I'm gonna get super close. Yeah, that's perfect, man. Just look at the camera for me. 3, 2, 1. Nice.
Alright, so after we did an outfit change, just across the road from the car, we saw this kind of, you know, big building, and on the ground level there were some cool spots that were very urban and clean, and I thought, you know what, this suits the outfit pretty well, so let's go and shoot over there. We basically just found little slithers of light that was shining through as the sun was setting, hitting the building, and I wanted to basically kind of try and use that to light up João the model, and maybe try and see how this film stock would kind of work in a very mixed light setting, especially with the color temperature like of the light versus the shade and the coolness behind him. But yeah, it didn't turn out exactly the way I wanted to. The light that was hitting his face, that I was trying to really carefully position him to like kind of be in, ended up being a bit more neutral than I had anticipated. It didn't end up being warm or anything. It didn't really help his skin tone, I don't think. He did end up kind of looking a bit more pale, and the buildings behind him were very blue and very cool. And so yeah, like, it's funny how you think it's going to turn out, but then in reality it's just completely different. Now, as we were walking back to try and find our last location, I kind of saw João go ahead of me, and you know, this situation where the whole cityscape was behind him, and I normally don't take more landscape orientated pictures because I'm a portrait and fashion photographer, but I thought, you know what, I like this composition, so let me try and capture him here. And so I basically just got him to just stand there. I framed it in a way that you could see all the different layers behind him. And you know what? I love this image. And I think this is where using Cinestill 800T is very appropriate. Get that cinematic feel. And I love the layers. I love the juxtaposition of the urban city in the far back with the nature in the middle, and João standing there in the middle, just adding a little bit more like sort of proportions to the composition.
It's good. 3, 2, 1. All right, 3, 2, 1. Nice. Let's, just for the sake of it, just to test the film out, I think let's try and get that in the background.
Once we shot around here, I basically just walked around to the side of the building, and I saw that the city skyline was behind this building, and we had a clear view, and especially of the harbor bridge as well. So, you know, we basically just sort of said, okay, let's try and shoot this. Now, Eli the videographer and João the model saw it and thought this would be sick to get in the photo, but being the photographer that I am, and having had experience shooting in these sort of lighting situations, I knew that this wasn't going to translate in the way that we were seeing in real life. I didn't actually change too much. Again, I upped the contrast a little bit to make it a bit more appropriate for still, but this is how it turned out. And as you can see here, it turned out pretty cool. And then you can see the city, it's a bit too blurred. I couldn't even increase my aperture past f4 without compromising my shutter speed to go a little bit too slow. So it was a bit of an interesting situation, but again, the joys of photography, and this is how it turned out. Our last location, I had kind of pre-scouted this location, and it was usually filled with lots of dappled afternoon light. But by the time we got to it, the sun was pretty much had set over the horizon, and there were not too much light shining through. So I basically just got João to find pockets of light to just sit in and at least stick his head in. So he's crouching behind the bushes, and I wanted to see how sunset that was quite orange and kind of deep orange would turn out on Cinestill 800T, especially lighting someone's skin. And to be honest, it turned out a little bit not great. And what I mean by that is I expected it to turn out a bit more warm on his skin, but obviously tungsten balance, it balanced it out, and it ended up turning out a bit more yellowish green, which I don't know, just doesn't look that great to me. I tweaked it a little bit in post and shifted it, but not by much. Enough that it wasn't that bad, but it still gave you guys an indication of how this film translated such a situation into the final result. Again, I definitely will edit this a little bit more in post because yeah, it's just not quite usable to me, but I wanted you guys to see the end result for, you know, as close to how it would be in real life.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Nice. And then let's have one against here. Yeah. All right, 3, 2, 1. Cool. All right, let's do the last 2 up in the balcony. All right, look towards me. All right, nice. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I'm gonna get close. Yeah, I like that. Can you peer up slightly? 3, 2, 1. Can we go to this corner? Yeah, it's looking pretty good. 3, 2, 1. Done. Done.
Alright, so here are my final thoughts. Overall, really happy with how these scans have turned out. I think they're pretty great. I did expect them to turn out more on the cool side. So as you guys have seen, it's relatively cool and it's more blue and green. And you know, skin tones was pretty hard, but that was kind of the beauty of giving a go with a film stock that I haven't used in a context that not many people use them as well. So it was just fun, honestly. That's all I'm gonna say. It was just fun to try something completely, take a stab in the dark, kind of imagine a little bit of how it was going to turn out in my mind, but not overthinking it to the point where I just wasn't going to be doing this video and I wasn't going to be using it on the shoot. So that's kind of the happy balance that I kind of came to. And, you know, I learned a lot from it. And I hope you guys have seen the results and can use this both in the more positive and the negative sides of like the results to go and adapt it and sort of do what you will with it. But for me, I learned a lot from it, and next time I'm gonna try using a warming filter that you can attach to the end of your lens to, you know, counteract the fact that it's a tungsten balanced film. Basically what the warming filter will do is it will help translate the natural blue light into red light. So tungsten balanced film kind of interprets red light into white, and then daylight balanced film interprets blue light into white, which is why there's a funny color shift. So the warming filter will basically help translate the blue light into red light, which will then bring it a bit more balanced once it's shot on a tungsten balanced film. So yeah, you know what, it was fun, and it wasn't, you know, like most of the shots that I got wasn't too bad. Some of them are pretty useful, and I will use it, and then a lot of others were just like, yeah, it's okay. Like, it's just good to see what happened. And yeah, and again, the process just was really kind of like, from inception to actually happening, it took less than a day. And I just want to encourage anyone out there who is, you know, thinking about trying out different film stock and just kind of caught in this sort of loop of like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste my money. At the end of the day, I encourage you guys to just go and shoot and try it out, because that is part of the creative kind of journey, and that is what makes film very exciting, and kind of something that a lot of people just love, because we just love to find out how it's going to translate. And the beauty is, once you try it, you know, first, you can always learn and adapt and try a little bit, you know, do something different in the future. So I learned from this shoot, and I'm definitely gonna adapt and try a little bit something different in the future for a better result and a more favorable outcome. Specifically with shots that I can use more professionally, shots that I'll be happy to post, shots that I'll be happy to, you know, give back to the model as well. So definitely give it a go. Don't overthink it. but don't just recklessly go in and spend all your money and waste all your time either. So like I said, it took a whole of like less than a day between me thinking about this idea and executing it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm pretty happy with the scans. I didn't have to fight the skin tones too much because, you know, I kind of expected this result, and fighting it too much would mean that, you know, I would be fighting against the film too much, and that wasn't really the intention of why I tried this film stock out. I did have to, you know, edit the contrast in post a little bit because the results were relatively like low in contrast, and most motion picture film kind of stock that they use is quite sort of low contrast to make sure that they are high dynamic, so that in post they can edit, and there's a bit more room to edit in post. So, you know, it turned out exactly the way I was anticipating it, and all I had to do was just make sure that, you know, I could, you know, bump the shadows down or increase the contrast a little bit to make it a bit more pleasing and appropriate for kind of a still image. Thanks for watching this video. Hey, before you go, if you vibe this video, then make sure you like the video to help me with the YouTube algorithm. And if you've been vibing with the content that I've been putting out there, make sure you subscribe so you can join in on the journey and you're not missing out on any future videos. I'd love to have you along for any other future videos that I make. So yeah, that's it for today. Until next time,